we did it. We made it.
We apologize, everybody, for the delay. We are so sorry if you're watching us live. I had some computer issues, so yeah.
It was Kathy's fault. She didn't take my advice. She couldn't turn her computer on, and she didn't do what I told her to do.
I know. He said to talk dirty to it, and it didn't work.
Next time.
Oh, it works for me. So not
maybe the outfit. Maybe it was the outfit.
That's what
I didn't like what I was wearing. How's everybody?
Doing good. Staying busy. So we had 4th of July down here in the States. Good times. 250th.
Nice.
So
yay.
I made a lot of noise last night. It was a good time. Yeah. So we kept the neighbors up. Nobody called the cops, so that was nice. No, it was a lot of fun. We had, all my kids are here, and grandkid is here, and my wife's parents came down. My in-laws have been here, so yeah, it's been a fun week, and I'm a little tired. I had a nap earlier today, so that was good. Yeah, good. I'm not as spry as I used to be, apparently, so I can't keep up with the kids anymore.
It sounds like a good shindig.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. And I had, I did my barbecue, which is great because, it's state law or national federal law that you have to have all the meat groups on the 4th of July. You got to have your hamburgers, your steaks, your hot dogs, chicken. Yeah, it was great. So
nice. Good. Yay. That sounds good. Well, we had Canada Day here. We actually did do nothing.
It was fun because I actually was thinking of you two because when we were lighting off our fireworks, a lady and her son came walking up, and they were from Canada, and they were just absolutely mesmerized. They're like, "This is crazy. We're from Canada. Nobody ever does this out. We can't have this up there." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah. Like that's kind of it too. Like, honestly, I mean, well, first of all, here in Edmonton, I mean, like we've been raining like every freaking day. It's been rain. So nobody wants to do anything because as soon as you get a little bit of sunlight, you're like outside. Whoa, I got the lawnmower. Woohoo. Like that's our excitement. Ooh, but yeah, as soon as there was a nice day, I was like outside, like as quick as I could, not to enjoy the sun, just to like, so I could, I could mow my weeds. Like, it was ridiculous. So, yeah.
We must have well manicured weeds. That's, yeah.
Right. I know. But I don't even think I don't even know if we had fireworks. We normally do have fireworks. But I mean, one year I was actually in Vancouver, and it was kind of interesting because the bridge that I was on, it was like, you could see West Vancouver and then you could see Vancouver. Kind of, apparently they're like two separate cities, which I had no idea about until then. But they both had fireworks. So it was really cool because one finished and then the other one started. So you were able to view both. But here in Edmonton, we get, I don't know, Todd with his yeah, I don't know, firework. His firework.
Todd. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Todd from Canada.
Yeah. Todd from Canada. Yeah.
We had a very interesting Canada Day here in the town of Georgina because we not only had a massive, I think they call it a downburst, but we had tornado warnings. We had a huge we had a huge celebration at this place called The Rock, which is like a big ski hill here. And there were vendors and music and all of that. And then boom, this massive storm, this downdraft thing kind of blew in and everybody lost everything. It was horrendous. People were running for cover. People got hurt. It wasn't really good at all. were caught. There was one person who unfortunately was pronounced deceased at the lake, got caught on a paddleboard, and it was just a complete tragedy. It was a bad Canada Day, so we didn't have fireworks. The town didn't have fireworks, but we had a couple of people that did eventually set off some fireworks around 10 o'clock. But it was like, what a crappy Canada Day.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
It was
Next time, come down here and we'll have a barbecue, and hopefully it'll be better.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can celebrate Canada Day here too. It's fine.
Okay.
I don't mind that.
I like it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Lynda, would you like to introduce our beautiful guest today? I'm really excited about this topic. This is going to be good. I think a lot of people need to hear about this, because this is, again, becoming more prevalent in the paranormal spiritual world.
Absolutely. Well, I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce our guest, who has been on the show before, and I'm glad that we can get to see her today. This is a very wonderful friend, Kendra Shae-Marie Mullings, Kendra Ukweli. And Kendra is the most incredibly, I'm going to say, profoundly spiritual person that I know, and is incredibly well-versed in so many things. And Kendra is going to elucidate all of us, because she's incredibly well-spoken. And well, Kendra, I mean, you do everything. You do yoga, you do Reiki, you do tarot, you do so many things. So Kendra Ukweli, here you are.
Hey, Kendra, how you doing? Good to see you again.
Oh no, you gotta unmute yourself, bro. There we go.
Hi.
Hello,
What
how are
an
you?
Amazing introduction. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I have to write down a new word, elucidate. I'm gonna have to look that one up. So
Elucidate.
that's a very fancy word. So yeah.
If you find yourself hallucinating, look away, look back.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. So Kendra, tell us a little about yourself.
I am a divine being of light here in the world, like everyone else, whether they know it or not. I think awareness is maybe the difference between me and some others. I'm having another human experience, like many that I've had before. I chose this one as well, for soul lessons to grow, to eventually graduate from this realm. That's the purpose, I think, in my opinion, that we're all here for, right? And that we chose to be here. For my soul's journey personally, I know we're beyond feeling at this stage in the journey. I know that I have graduated this earth realm cycle. We call it in yoga samsara, right? Birth, life, death, rebirth. And I think I know, I keep saying I think, human things, humanisms. I know that I graduated it already, but I chose to come back during this time to serve and contribute to the liberation of all of us during this time. Now that doesn't mean that I'm special or different than anybody else. It just means that I have awareness of why I'm here and who I am. And then of course I've had a full human experience. I'm a mother of 4. I'm married. I am an educator, business owner. There's a duality that you come to hopefully find balance in order to navigate this realm and stay in sanity.
Insanity. Yeah, well put. Well put.
Absolutely. So describe to us, going into the topic of the show, describe to us what you would consider a spiritual attack.
Okay. I think we have to break that down just one more step further and then come back up to your question. So I think the first question would be, what is spirit?
Mm-hmm.
So spirit is us without form, right? Souls, the essence, what animates the vehicle or the human body. That's what spirit is. And like everything else, there is dark and light, yin and yang, black and white, right? There's opposites. So you're going to have spirits, essence, or entities that choose based on where they are in their spiritual, in their journey, to be positive in their energetic exchanges, and
Mm-hmm.
those who choose to be what we would call negative um, in their interactions and communications with others, right? There's going to be good spirits and evil spirits. So that's what spirit is. Spirit is us, essence that animates the human body in the human form, but it's in the formless state. So now to come forward to your question, what is a spiritual attack? A spiritual attack, when it's coming from a formless essence, spirit, or entity, is an attack that is meant to either confuse, derail, upset, or deter a spirit who is either aware of who they are and what their spiritual gifts are, or they are on the brink of becoming aware. So the spiritual attacks are meant to keep you in the thickness of the matrix, in the matter, to weigh you down. So those spiritual attacks aren't going to happen to people who are asleep or not yet reawakened, or that are living out their matrix programming. They're not going to be spiritually attacked. There's no need. Spiritual attacks are cast upon those who are aware of their spiritual gifts and growing in their spiritual gifts, because those spirits, while in physical form, they have this gift of physical form as well, and they're becoming aware of their gifts and who they are, and they want to use them to serve the light. Those are the people who experience spiritual attacks. And they can look like anything. It can look like depression. It can look like anxiety, because it might cause racing thoughts, or it might cause low vibrational thoughts that cause you to doubt yourself or rethink everything, your purpose. It causes confusion and derails you from coming in contact in your journey. And a lot of people, if they don't have support around them, will fall into either mental illness, or will simply plug back into the programming and go back to the status quo and never fully develop their gifts.
It can look like, in some aspects too, a flu, almost like a flu. And it might not be a long one, like it might only last for a few hours, yeah. But it can come in like where you think that you got, like, what the hell, like all of a sudden I have the flu. Like, how do I go from, feeling perfectly fine to, oh my God, I feel like I instantly got the flu.
Yeah, definitely. It can manifest in the physical, absolutely, in many different ways, including flu-like symptoms. The more you experience these things, or the more aware of self, higher self, you become, the easier it is to pick up on it, mm-hmm. Right? The time span is shorter. Earlier in my journey, if I was under a spiritual attack, it might take weeks, months even, for me to be aware. You just know that something is different in your energy, in your body, in your space. You're feeling kind of off. But we've been programmed to reason, right? And to use matrix reasoning. So we do that because that's what we know. But the deeper you go into your journey, and the more aware you are of yourself in the full aspects, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it, the more you know of yourself, you pick it up like that. And once you pick it up, then you can go into removal of whatever the spiritual attack is coming with. You can remove that from yourself. And of course, prior to that, once you gain the knowledge, there's also protection and preventative measures. You can put yourself in such a space that these kind of things just bounce right off of you.
Absolutely. So uh, what would you recommend to somebody who's, let's say, starting the experience of a physical attack? And here's the thing, because, as a reader also, I get a lot of people that will be like, am I under attack? Am I dead? And all of this stuff. Now, I'm usually not going to answer them in like 5 minutes or something like that. That's something that, needs a little bit of a deeper look into. But how would somebody say to somebody, or how would you determine the difference between, okay, this could be literally, it's just anxiety. You might just be dealing with some anxiety, or maybe you are dealing with just, a little bit of depression, or let's go on the other side. Is it a spiritual attack? So what would you do in that aspect?
I think they're one and the same, right? Because you too are spirit. So if your mind is attacking you, your spirit's attacking you from the inside, and you're operating a lower vibration internally, and now your mind is telling you that you're not good enough, you're this, that, and the other thing, and you're experiencing fear of future things to come, or trying to predict things to come and living in that fear cycle, that's a spiritual attack from within. That's you attacking yourself.
For sure, because you're lowering your own vibration, right? Yeah.
Anxiety is fear of the future, and depression is fear of the past, when you start to relive things that already happened that you're still holding on to. So the same way spirits, entity, essence that are formless can attack you, you can do that within yourself as well. So I would ask questions to try to get deeper. I think I agree with you that it wouldn't be done in 5 minutes, but just to get some understanding around what kind of things this person is experiencing. If I hear certain things like they feel drained physically of their energy when around certain people, that is something that would lean more towards a spiritual attack. Not to say that anxiety and depression and that mind racing can't drain you, but it's a different feeling. Like you said, it's almost like a sick feeling that comes out of nowhere, that literally takes your energy from you, and you feel that you can't do anything. And there's no medical or any other reasoning around it that you can find. And also too, your intuition. What does your gut tell you? What does it feel like inside you? Right? When you speak it out loud or within yourself, what does your gut do? Does it expand out and fill up with air? Or does it tighten and pull back all by itself to the back of your belly? Right? That's a good physical indication for people who aren't yet in tune fully with their inner knowing. And being in tune with it is one thing, and being aware of it is one thing, but trusting it is a whole different ballgame when you've grown up in the cycle of this programming, right? I don't think that can be taught. I think that comes with experience of proving yourself right time and time again within yourself. And when you stop needing external validation from people to tell you, oh yeah, I agree with that, and just trusting in your own intuition, you'll know when you're under spiritual attack.
So coming from somebody that's, I kind of had some experiences along this line years ago, and not really understanding the spiritual side of things in that sense, I had no idea what was. I didn't know that there was something wrong per se. I knew that I had a lot of stress. I knew that I definitely had some depression going on. Some things like that. I don't think I had any anger issues, or I wasn't lashing out, but I was just, I would describe it as I was walking in a fog all the time. And, but I assumed it was relatively normal, that, I got a stressful job, finances, I have a big family, things like that. And it wasn't until, I met this lady, actually through my church, and she approached my wife and started asking about me, and just like, and I can't even remember what she would call herself, like a spiritual healer or something along that line. But she basically said that she could just see this darkness around me, and she knew that she could help me. And so my wife convinced me to go see this lady. And it was, to me, I approach things from more of a scientific and logical standpoint, which doesn't always go well with spirit. And I understand that. And so for me, it was a lot of, ooh. However, the things that she said go very much mirror what you're saying. And it was interesting because as I went through the process of taking care of these negative spirits that were affecting me so much, it wasn't like all of a sudden everything was great or fine. It was like you were talking about, like it was like I got better from the flu. It was like kind of like this very almost unnoticeable, gradual. Oh yeah, I'm good now. And then all of a sudden I was great. What was really, really fascinating, some of the things that she talked about was how our spirits are aware of certain things that we are not consciously aware of. And I thought that was extremely fascinating. And she did this test where she started asking me these questions, and she had me hold my arm out. And I'm not, trying to brag, but I'm a strong guy. I'm not, I'm a fireman. I eat my Wheaties. But and I'd hold my arm out, and she'd ask a question, and she'd tap my arm, and she would just tap my arm. And if it was like a yes, my arm would remain solid. And if it was a no, my arm would dip. And I started accusing of her hitting my arm harder and stuff. She goes, "No, I'm really not." And she'd ask these questions, but apparently, like she talks about how your spirit knows. So I guess my question is like, how are we able to take someone who is like me, and help people understand that there might be something going on that can be fixed, and how do we become more aware of what our spirits are aware of?
Okay. So what she was doing would either be a very scientific process, which would be trying to figure out what your dosha is. So that comes from Ayurveda, the tapping of the arm. So that would be, she was trying to figure out what your dosha, how do I explain dosha? It's like your constitution, your own personal constitution, right? Everyone is different. It kind of aligns a little bit with astrology, but it comes from Ayurveda, which is the sister science of yoga. So people often mistake yoga as being for the body, but yoga is for the freeing of the mind. We use the body in order to get people in this fast-paced, disconnected society to tap in far enough to begin to quiet the mind. So yoga is actually about the mind. Ayurveda now is for the physical body. So she's trying to figure out what your constitution is. Are you a vata, a pitta, or a kapha? So that equates to air energy, fire energy, or earth energy. And so she's trying to see where your attacks might be coming from. What type of energy might it be coming from? So that's what that most likely was. And then also what she's picking up when she's saying your spirit knows, I would call it your aura. Everyone has their own energy field around them, your bioenergy field, they're calling it in science now. Historically, in spiritual practices, we've called it your aura, that energy that can be felt, can be seen by some, but definitely can be felt by all around you. So do we have time for me to show you a quick, like 2-minute, 3-minute practice? To see if you can feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is called, well, in my practice, we call it I won't say the word, but we call it our BS blocker.
Okay.
But it's actually called sound and color breathing. We're going to not worry about the color, just in terms of time and explanation and all of that. So we're just going to leave the color out, and we're going to work with sound and frequency. Sound and frequency is a great way for us as human beings to tap into the spiritual realm, to heal our bodies and to reconnect with our higher selves or different versions of ourselves, which we call ancestors, right? It's all just us, right? Okay, so let's just take a big inhale in through the nose and allow your belly to fill up nice and big, and then just let it out through your mouth. The idea is to just get everything to soften, to relax, for the shoulders to come down, to just soften. Give yourself a bit of a straight spine if you can. If it's available to you, just cross your left ankle over your right ankle, just creating that easy seated posture of yoga. Now place the palm of your hand on your belly, and you're going to inhale through the nose, and you're going to be making the sound ah. So you're just going to repeat after me. I'm going to tell you where to put your hand and the sound to make, and we're just going to work our way through. And we're going through the main 7 like areas chakra system. So let's get to it. Inhaling through the nose. Ah. Now you're going to do it with me and close your eyes so you can feel it and hear your own sound. We're going to start over. So bring your awareness in your third eye space, or let your awareness sit there, and place the awareness from there into your belly, and inhale through the nose, eyes closed. The sound is ah. Inhale. Ah. Moving your hand up, bringing your awareness to your chest, heart, and lungs. The sound is you. Inhale. You. Moving up to your throat and thyroid area. The sound is a deep so. Inhale. So. Then moving up to your third eye space, the sound is sun with an exaggerated n at the end. Inhale. Sun. Then finally, back of the head, base of the brain, the sound is sum. Inhale. Sum. Now inhale your arms up and move them around in a circle just a couple times. And let your palms fall open like a cup, and just take a minute and tap in. Do you feel your energy? Like your own personal energy. You can say no if it's a no. It takes time. Hopefully you can feel your energy. That is your aura. That is your space, your personal bubble. Does anybody feel anything at all? And you can say no.
Yes.
I don't know.
That's fair. That's
I'm
fair.
not
Usually
sure if
I would be talking in between the sounds, right? And you would move this way. If I didn't say anything, you wouldn't know what to do. So,
and I guess, yeah.
If it so calls to you, practice it a couple times. I didn't create this practice. It's a 6,000-year-old practice. So you can find it online and check it out. And that energy that you feel all around you, that is your own personal space. And in my practice, we call it our BS blocker, because you can slow everything down if you can cultivate that space and expand your aura. You're going to have it naturally, but expand your aura out. Now, some people can look at you and see your aura. I don't see myself as someone who necessarily sees aura. I more feel than I see. And I think we've all experienced that, where someone comes into your presence and you feel that something is not right, something's not off. Maybe it's not even about the person, but maybe your energy and their energy is not a good match. And you can feel that within yourself. Some people can see it.
Yep.
Others can feel it. Oh,
Yep.
I'm sorry. What was the other part of your question? I swear there's another part I forgot.
So I guess, yeah, how do we learn how to, I guess, better understand our spirit? As you know, like, you know, we're talking about the aura and recognizing, I guess, being more conscious of what our spirit is aware of.
Yeah, I would say trust it. Trust it. Stop reasoning things away. Begin to reprogram yourself. So it happens to all of us all day, every day. Your mind speaks to you. Your that voice in your head, right, speaks to you. Make sure it's coming from your gut, and it's going to take time for you to be the one who's in charge of the program. And most of us are still running programming from our first 5 years of life, right? But if you're past that point, I still sometimes reason things away, like simplest things, like I'll get up to do something and my mind will say, don't do that now. But I'll be like, no, I have to do it now because X, Y, and Z, because I won't have time later, or I have all these reasons. But what if you start to practice just listening to your intuition, just listening to that little voice in your head on the simplest, most basic things that aren't going to cause any harm or major disruption in your life, and begin to build trust? You'll soon find, like I found, that is you. That is your higher self giving you a heads up. And ask yourself this right now. How many times have you had a voice in your head or a feeling within yourself tell you something, and you go the opposite direction of that thing, only to circle back and find out that you were 100% right in what your initial thought, your initial feeling was?
A lot.
Yeah.
So what I did when I realized that in my journey is I just started listening to that initial feeling. And it's scary at first because I think I know better. I think the status quo and matrix programming that was instilled in me is the only way. So when I started challenging that within myself, it was scary, because what if I do my own thing and be sovereign and allow myself to be different than everything else that's happening? I'm afraid of how people will perceive me or perceive that, and all these other fears. But if you do it anyway, what you learn is that you can trust you. You know you. No one knows better about what's good for you or right for you than you. Yeah. That is your spirit.
That's interesting, because when you said that, the first thing I thought of was, other people will say, and I mean, that was my question. How would you know if you're under a spiritual attack? But if you know yourself so well, you would know when something feels off, or you would know when your energy doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like you. And there was a question that I had as well. Years ago, someone told me that they were under spiritual attack. And of course, they use all kinds of different ways to describe it, different words. And they'll say, well, they did say they felt that they were cursed. And they said it was odd because I had like a tinny kind of strange taste in my mouth the entire time. And then when that curse was lifted, so when the spiritual attack ended, that was no longer there. So that always kind of intrigued me, that there was a taste that they had. And why would that be?
I haven't heard of a taste. I haven't experienced a taste personally, but we're talking something a little bit different now. So we talked about spiritual attack coming from within yourself. We talked about spiritual attacks coming from formless entities. We could call them ghosts. We have all types of names, right? They're not in a body. Right. I think what you're talking about now is when we get into spiritual attacks that are coming from another human being.
Yes, or elsewhere.
Another human being is using ritualistic and sometimes practical or kitchen magic, depending on what practices that they engage in. Christians also talk a lot about spiritual attacks, right? So we know that this is something that is prevalent across all cultures. And people align them with witches and different kinds of witches. And yes, they can come from that source, but they can come from just about anyone because they're rooted in intention, right? They're rooted in an intention to derail you. But now this intention now is external from yourself and external from the spirit realm. They're using spirit, but the spirit they're using is not a pure spirit. It's coming, it's mixed with magic and ritual, which is all rooted in intention. Everyone is capable, right? A spiritual attack, it can be you walk into a room and that lady that resents your boldness and your confidence because she's insecure in herself gives you a dirty look. with that, and based on the intention behind her mind, you might find that you trip over your high heel and stumble a little bit, right? It's all rooted in intention. And a lot of times people don't know the power of their intention. So those are like novice, baby spiritual attacks. But then you have spiritual teachers, practitioners, people who call themselves witches in different lineages of witchcraft that are very much capable and have the capacity to sit down and craft a spiritual attack that can do anything from someone stubbing their toe to derailing their whole life to as far as death. But in the spiritual realm, you have to be careful if you dabble in that kind of thing, because like here, right, as above, so below, as within, so without, every action has a reaction, and there's always a cause, right? And sometimes when we see people in spirits, us in our human forms, we don't necessarily always pick up on exactly who they are or what position they might hold in the spirit realm. It might not be the same in the physical world, right? A high priestess in the spiritual realm might be your waitress in this realm. So we always have to be careful when launching spiritual attacks. I worry about that in this day and age with these practices that used to be more sacred, more gate kept, being so open and commercialized that people don't always know what they're doing. Everything you put out comes back to you one way or the other, right? So you have to know what you're putting out. I don't know anything particularly about why there'd be a taste, but that sounds to me that that would be something that a experienced ritualistic magician or witch, or depending on whether it's hoodoo, voodoo, or whatever practice it might be, that someone has deliberately put forward for that person to be tied to that taste in their mouth. And so that's why the taste would go away when they've been released or when they've released themselves, right? But the same way the person casting that type of spiritual attack has intention and experience, even if you don't have experience, you have intention too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and you can protect yourself from all kinds of sort of external spiritual attacks, but
Absolutely.
you can also protect yourself internally as well.
Yeah. And you can remove things, because sometimes, as someone who practices various spiritual practices and deeply rooted in African spirituality, as a Yoruba priestess, I don't live my life in practice anymore. There was a period of time in my journey when I lived my life in practice. I don't live my life in practice. I live my life. I enjoy my life. I live my life. Right. So sometimes something might slip through the cracks because you're not paying attention. Your awareness is not sitting there all the time, because there's a duality and there's this very real physical realm, like Trevor said earlier, of bills and, real world stuff, that even if you are well versed in these practices, things can slip through. It's happened to me. And it might take you a day or two to be like, whoa, okay, didn't see that coming. So there's also ways, if you find yourself in that situation, to remove whatever has been put on you, right?
Well,
Remember, no matter how experienced or what specific spells or incantations or words or whatever someone might have or use to cast a spiritual attack on someone else, the person that the attack is being casted on, even if they're what we would call a novice or whatever it is, it's all rooted in intention. That person's intention is no less powerful than the experienced practitioner putting that type of ritual forward. The only difference is they may not be aware that they're capable of retaliating or of defending or protecting themselves.
Well, and it's interesting, some of the things that are, that are being brought up. And I know one of our viewers has a question for you, but this kind of goes into what we were talking about as far as like people who aren't aware that they're doing things to you, perhaps, and our own abilities to protect ourselves. When I, mentioned this gal that had helped me out, she had talked about a thing called cording. I don't know if you've heard that, cording, cording. where basically kind of people are unwitting leeches, spiritual energy leeches, that they attach something to you, and they're just kind of pulling energy from you constantly. And it's I found that very fascinating. And then she talked about how because she was talking about, like, I had a lot of cords attached to me at the time. And that it can be such and it's an honest truth. When she taught me how to kind of release those cords, get rid of those, I had so much more energy. It was that was definitely a palpable feeling, like being able to cleanse those cords. How, I would imagine you might have some advice for people out there on how they can try to get rid of those cords themselves. And, because being able to protect yourself spiritually requires energy. And if that energy is going to all these other people that you're not even aware of, you're going to be feeling tired a lot more than you should be. At least that's how I felt. I was just exhausted all the time. So what would you say to that?
So courting kind of aligns with me with karmic ties, right? Agreements and contracts we made before. I think I dropped for a second.
It's okay.
Do we still have you, Kendra?
Everybody.
Is she coming back?
You're back.
We're buffering.
Yeah, buffering.
I'm still here, but everyone else is still.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's okay. Welcome
I'm sure she'll pop back in here. So yeah, fascinating topic, in my opinion. I mean, there was some pretty amazing. I learned a ton going through that process, and it was very, very interesting stuff. So, but I mean, where I started rolling my eyes because she started talking about chakra and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, here we go, but I mean, I couldn't argue with the results of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and Kendra's talking about people that are having trouble with, you kind of you beat yourself up mentally, like all the time. Right. And in my case, it was like, nothing I do is right. Nothing I can say is right. No matter how hard I try, it doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
Hey, you're back.
Kendra's back. Yay. I was rambling.
I'm sorry. I live in the landing. It happens. My internet dropped. So I was saying about karmic ties and courting. I'll say I think it's definitely a real thing, and those are the contracts, the soul contracts we make with other spirits, other essences.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
And I think her Wi-Fi is under spiritual attack.
There we go.
My Wi-Fi is under spiritual attack. But you know what? There's no coincidences either, right? You have to pay attention to the signs. The signs are everywhere. Maybe I'm about to say something I'm not supposed to say.
Right?
Or something that somebody
important.
doesn't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Or they don't want to hear, or they're not ready to hear. Those cords can be cut. We'll leave it at that, right? Those ties can be broken. You can change your mind. Even though you chose it, you can change your mind, or you can accept the things that come at you in life as if you chose them. Does that make sense? As if you chose them. So without resistance, without anger, without any fuss. And I find they'll pass through very quickly. Especially if it's something you chose. You chose it so that you could learn a lesson. You didn't choose it to learn the lesson and then do it again and do it again and do it again. You're going to learn the lesson and you're going to evolve and move on. So that is the human attachment and wanting to hold on to everything and needing to, root everything up. What if you sat back, took a deep breath, and accept everything that came at you, whether it's labeled good, bad, or in between, as something you chose? and watch how quickly it dissipates and passes away. The most I could tell you about spiritual baths, I could tell you spells, I could tell you all kinds of things, but the most important thing you can do to protect your energy, your spirit, your essence from spiritual attack, be it from within, from other formless entities, or from the witch down the street, is to draw your energies inwards and to focus on you and your purification process, the cleansing of your physical body, your mental body, and your emotional body. That way your spirit can flow freely through the channels of this body and through the channels of your astral body. And anything that tries to attack you, you'll come to the point where honestly, it just bounces right back off you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to return to sender. You don't have to any of that. You have to draw your energies inward and focus on you, because ultimately the reason you're being attacked ultimately is because you decided that you wanted that attack before you got here, because there's something you need to be reminded of or to learn. Draw your energies inward, focus on you. But of course, there's all types of practical magic that can also work to remove these things.
One of our viewers had a question for you. Isn't there consequences for putting curses on people, like karmic debt?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we touched on that earlier, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. What you put out comes back to you. One thing's for certain and two things for sure in my journey is that the things you do come back to you. So it's up to you what you want to do. That doesn't have to be threatening. If you're a purist that's doing good things, that's not a concern.
That's right. That's right. It's about intention.
About it. It's all rooted in intention. Everyone's a magician. Everyone's a psychic. Okay. Everyone has the same capacities and capabilities. None of us are special. Some of us are aware.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's interesting because as a paranormal investigator, and I know Kathy and Trevor, you get this too a lot. A lot of times a home or an individual will be attracting specific energies to themselves in a specific environment. And then we get called in because there are things happening. It's quote unquote haunted. They have a difficult time dealing with it. How do I do this? But they're the actual people that are attracting what happens. So again, it is all about, the negative self-talk. And if you are negative, you will attract negative to you. So I think a lot of people don't really understand that or how it can happen. But I know that all of us have had issues with, hauntings and active locations where it's the person who is, responsible, I'll say, for what's happening in the environment.
Light will also do that too, though. I find whenever I'm vibrating at my highest points, I also attract a lot of lower vibrational beings and people like that, because they're seeking help, right?
Right.
They're seeking help, and that you become like a beacon in the darkness. If they're thick and heavy in the darkness, you become a beacon. So over time and being burnt a few different times, you kind of learn where to set your boundaries as to how you go about helping people, not just in the real world, but in the spiritual realm as well. I think it's important to leave people to their journeys, even if they're people that you love and care for. It's not your place to stop them from falling into the pit. They signed up to fall into the pit so they could learn how to get out of the pit. It's a tough one, and it took me a long time to get there. Yeah, I jumped in the pits lots of times. I'll save you. No, I can't. It's not my job. Even if I want to, I couldn't.
So many times they pull you in.
Right.
So many times they just pull you in with them, and then you're basically you're just circling around and around, trying to get yourself back up. And we see this a lot, with parents, helping their kids at times. We see this in relationships. Like me personally, a lot of the readings that I do are relationship related, right? Like romance and that sort of thing. And you see this time and time again. Well, I can help him, I'm Wonder Woman. I can save this, defunct individual. And but they do it over and over and over again, not realizing the amount of energy that not only they're putting into another person, but the amount of time that is passing within their own physical life, in which they could be expanding themselves onto healthier individuals. And they just don't want to listen. Right? It's just around and around. Yeah.
Well, I think that goes right along with what Kendra was saying, as far as like, I agree with her. I think a lot of times it's a subconscious choice, or a choice that was made previously, because of the amount of resistance to change. They say that they're asking for help. They want help. They want this stuff to stop. But then when you tell them what needs to happen in order for those things to stop, it's like, oh, well, we can't do that. Well, even if it's something super simple. Super simple.
The problem is a lot of times too, is people don't see the other side, because they're so caught in the habit of what they're doing. And that brings them down into, again, that spiraling or that drain. And they're so used to the spiraling, or they're so used to the energy of whatever that cycle is, that it's really hard for them to see the other side of it. They don't understand that on that other side, if you let this go, if you release this, if you heal yourself, whatever it is, there's a whole nother world on the other side of that. But it terrifies the shit out of them, because of the fact that they've been caught in this cycle so many times. It's kind of like, and we see this sometimes with narcissists, which to some degree, let's admit, that can be kind of a spiritual attack, right? And so we see this with narcissists a lot, where, they'll make sure that, oh, I'm going to call this person every day, certain times, all the time, every day. Da 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 da. What are you doing? What are you doing? Da 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 da. And they get them into a force of like a habit, and then they start breaking that habit, which can set that person, the other person, into kind of a tailspin, because of the fact that they might be calling them every day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then all of a sudden, boom, stop. You're not going to hear from this person for like 2 days. And then when you message them, then all of a sudden they're like, well, I was busy. Hello. Right. And so you've created this habit. And so to let go of that habit, they don't see that other side of that habit. And it's really, really hard to create that release.
I think I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's a attachment, right? And the wrong kind of attachment. You kind of go. Yeah. They're not in the space of interdependence, but they're in the space of codependence. But that's who a narcissist would prey on, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Somebody who's still existing in that codependent space and hasn't become whole within themselves, where the people in their lives and them are interdependent, meaning we're always here for each other, but I exist wholly as myself, not as an extension of someone else, right? So narcissists will prey on that.
Absolutely. I was just using narcissists kind of as an example, but this happens like whether it be within marriages that have been, together for 20 years. You can't imagine having another life without that person, or you can't imagine the daily habits of whatever it was within that marriage. And so it creates this, and this is where people have that hard time of, releasing whatever it is that they need to release in order to see the other side. Because you're not going to really see that other side until you really start that releasing process, whether it's on a spiritual attack or whether it's a physical person or emotional connection, whatever it is, you got to start that releasing process.
Well, you're absolutely right. And it was narcissism. I thought was a great example to use. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
And I think on the flip side, there's entities like in my case, I think there was some attacks from within, but I think there was a lot of external attacks coming at me as well, according to this person that helped me out. And how you start listening to those negative, intrusive thoughts, and they just become second nature. And that's what you pay attention to. And, and so when we go to people's homes they're having these issues, and we say, hey, we recognize what's going on here. This is what I think you could do to make this better. those thoughts, they start hearing those subconscious voices telling them, nah, he's wrong. You know, this is fine. You like this. This is how it should be. And trying to break through that is incredibly difficult. Do you have any advice to give to help paranormal investigators help these people that say that they want to make? I mean, people have to make the change. They've got to do it, right? But how do we help convince them to do so?
Okay, so I think I said this last show too, and I've been saying it a lot lately. So I feel like my ancestors and spirit wants me to keep to spread this message because it keeps coming up. So when we come into our human bodies and we're in that baby form, we are fully conscious and awake and know exactly who we are. So the system has those first 5 years, right? Hence all the emphasis on that, during which time we're programmed with the programming that we will run inside our minds subconsciously, and what our nervous system will react to and how it will behave for the rest of our lives. That programming happens in those first 5 years. And after those first 5 years, that programming can be changed, but it can only be changed by you. There isn't an apology from your caregiver or whomever harmed you or whatever during those first 5 years that's going to make a difference internally. Intellectually, you might understand it. In your heart space, you might accept it. But when it comes to your nervous system, that programming is there. Somebody might have made you feel like you weren't good enough at something when you were 4 years old. And here you are at 60 saying, I'm not good at that, when you've never even tried it. It's just been programming, and that's what repeats. So those negative vibrations and thoughts that the vibrations become thoughts that then become your reality, that are playing out over and over again in your mind, those were programmed inside you a long time ago. So you can take all the spiritual bath and all of that, and I think do different things, try different things. There is no one way. There are many different ways. It's all going to the same destination. But when it comes to your nervous system and reprogramming that, only you can do that. And there's so many practices, but this is the simplest one. Think about your nervous system like an Alexa. And when you catch it misbehaving, when it crops up and says, you're not good enough, you treat it like an Alexa and you say, nervous system, please remove the programming that I'm not good enough and replace it with, I'm bloody awesome, or whatever you want to replace it with. And it's going to take a few times because it's been programmed deeply, whatever it is, it's been programmed deeply inside of you for so long that it's going to take some time. So you're going to have to do that over and over again. But you don't have to do it out loud. You can do it inside yourself. Eventually, what will happen is that programming will change. And over time, you'll develop a healed nervous system, and a healed nervous system supports you and tells you good things about yourself. You can change that because that's what we're all reacting to, right? All our behaviors is coming from our nervous system. I had to reprogram mine. The original programming, it was a hot mess. I wouldn't be alive today if I'd kept that original programming. So that's what that is. And that's the most basic thing you can do, is reprogram it in the moment. When you catch it talking stuff about you, you shut it down, you correct it in the moment, and you don't just correct it, you give it something to replace the programming with. Mm-hmm. Check that out within yourselves. I was so surprised about the things that my mind was telling me that wasn't true. Can I tell a brief story? Do I have time?
Oh yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so in one of my very early yoga trainings, probably about, I don't know, long time ago. But anyway, the teacher came in and he had a group of us, and he was very stern. Like, he came in and there was no like niceness or formalities or anything. He just split us in half, like just pointing, you here, you here, you here. And we're like, okay. And he sent half of us out of the room into the hallway and closed the door. And so we're all outside like, what in the world is going on? About 20 minutes goes by, he opens the door and he still doesn't speak to us, but tells us, come in. As we're walking in, everyone is staring at us. Think about all the feels inside, right? You're like, oh my God, especially unhealed matrix program version of yourself, right? I'm horrified of being perceived. What are they thinking about me? What did they say about me when I wasn't here? Like, what in the world is going on? And so then he gets us to sit down, and then he gets the group that was in the room to stand up, and they come and they stand behind us. And so that's weird. And then he says, okay, to the group that was outside, stand up. I'm in the group that was outside. We stand up. And then he gets us to start walking across the room. And the person behind you is walking behind you, and they are saying the most horrendous things in your ear. I'm going to say not so horrendous, but you're not good enough. You're not pretty. You're this. You're all these negative things to you. And when we get to the end of it, obviously the people in front that are hearing these negative things about themselves, like we're hurt, we're crushed, we're on an internal emotional roller coaster. And then so they started asking us, like, well, like, how did you feel? And people are saying they felt sad, they felt horrible. Why did that happen? Why is this happening? They got to me and they said, well, how did you feel? I said, honestly, I feel like turning around and punching her in the face. That's how I feel. That's so mean. Why would you do that? And my teacher said, bingo. That's exactly it. If someone followed you around all day, just talking shit about you all day long, you'd have some sort of reaction. You turn around, tell them to stop. You might even go as far as Kendra back then and go into violence. So why on earth do you just sit there and let your own mind destroy you all day long? You have the power to turn around and say, no, actually, change that programming. I am fantastic. I am beautiful. I'm a divine being of light. I matter. I'm valuable. Whatever it's saying to you, you can change that. We don't have to believe everything that we think. Not everything that we think is true.
Yeah.
What if your mind's just talking?
The subconscious is so strong. It's just amazing. I'm actually one of those people that do listen to subliminals while I sleep. So that's how, you know, for me, it brings me into
yoga nidra.
What's that?
You'd love yoga nidra.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. And so, yeah, the people don't realize how strong that subconscious is. And, you know, if we just stop and listen to what our subconscious is saying, oh man, you know, but when you get into, you know, like the ones that I listen to, I mean, it varies, but just as an example, you know, I listen to a lot of abundance ones, right? Various, you know, I kind of change them up a little bit because my head gets like, I'll get used to one. And then I'll kind of notice like little differences within me where I might not be as whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm not being as positive or whatever. I'm just using very basic terms on this, you know, for the sake of programming, I guess. But I noticed, you know, like the prosperity level, let's just say went from here to there because of the fact that I valued myself and I valued what it is that I do. And once you start valuing what you do, that changes it energetically around you. And people don't even understand how strong that is. And it basically means that you no longer, like back when I started doing readings, just as an example, I used to get people that would be like, you know, and they always try to slide in that, like, oh, hey, listen, you know, I'm just your friend. Let's go for a walk. You want to go for coffee? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, while we're here for coffee, let me just ask you about my fucking relationship. You know what I mean? And I used to get caught into that, right? And now I'm like, you know, you can book a reading. Have you been to my website? Have you seen my website? Yeah, absolutely. Like, I would love to look into that. But right now, we're just having coffee. And I'm enjoying my coffee time with you, my friend time. So,
setting,
you know,
those boundaries, right? It becomes a lot
absolutely.
easier. And again,
absolutely.
It's rooted in
100%.
awareness.
Absolutely. And it changed so much. So, I mean, that, you know, that stopped. But just also, too, it became a value of I am worth X amount. This is where I'm going to be. And like I said, boom, 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 boom. Because of the fact
you were never told, I would imagine you were never told growing up that you were worthwhile and worth X amount. That is something that you had to go into your nervous system.
I had to do it all on my own in that aspect. Yeah.
You had to plug that in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I had 100% plugged that in. My parents were not negative in the fact of like you were not worth that, but they were also very traditional in like you go to work, you go 9 to 5. This is what you know. Just because you don't like your job doesn't mean that your job isn't good for you. So you should just go to your job. Like it was a very 9 to 5 type of environment, you know, is where. And so when I branched out and started being on my own and my own businesses. That's, you know, it was really hard, you know, to be like, to have that comprehension. And so there was always like that, oh, blah, 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 you know, and again, it wasn't meant to like break me, but it also wasn't really encouraging in that aspect. Right.
So good parents, most of us do, right? All they're doing is perpetuating the system that they are in. And if they didn't have a reawakening, they can only operate from the space that they know. Right?
Yeah, so that's exactly it. They can only operate from where they know, and that's how they were. And so, you know, I had to create that within myself. And I learned a lot about, you know, different frequencies, binaural beats. I like, you know, I went auras, chakras, you know, the whole bit. Like for me, this was a learning process that I had to create and start pretty much on my own. And
you hit it right on the head, right? That's what I've been saying the entire time. It's going to come back to you, about you. And I don't care if it sounds arrogant or cocky. I've done my work.
Absolutely.
I don't fall prey to spiritual attacks anymore. And it doesn't matter how experienced or high up, external ones anyway, the person is, or whoever they think they are or actually are in the spiritual realm. It doesn't affect me because I don't acknowledge it's right to. With me. You can only ultimately affect me if I allow you to live rent free in my mind and my heart and my nervous system. If I have some fear around your perception of me.
Kendra,
otherwise,
I can't tell
anything you throw out is just gonna probably come back to you. But I'm not even concerned with that. I wouldn't waste my time sitting at my altar and asking my ancestors to return some sort of spiritual attack. It doesn't make sense, right? As a purist, I would use that energy and my connection with my ancestors to bring in something that's going to be a contribution to the greater good for all humanity, for example, as opposed to so and so down the town, you know, hurt my ego or whatever it is, so now I'm gonna mess with their life or whatever. Who has time? At a certain level, you don't have time. At a certain level, you're collaborating with the spirits and the entities.
Well, and that's where people, again, kind of go into that I'm going to cater to you instead of catering to myself, even if their intention is of a negative aspect. You know, like I was talking about with romance, right? A lot of times it's women that are like, I'm going to try to put you together and make you the best human, blah, blah, blah. But it can be the opposite too, where we're like, or not just women, but you know what I mean? People where we're like, well, I'm going to tear you apart. But instead, so they're putting all of that focus onto whatever this other person, this other body, rather than placing all of the positivity that they could be placing into themselves and helping themselves to ascend and evolve into a better version of who they could be, right? And a lot of people just don't realize like how powerful that it really is. Like when you turn that into you, I can't tell you how many times I and I don't even care, like you were saying, I don't care if people consider me rude. I really don't. Like I've been in conversations, you know, where, you know, somebody's talking about something and I just know that it's not resonating with me. This is something I'm not supposed to hear. My body starts vibrating. I don't feel good. I can feel like they're trying to, they might be talking to a group, like, you know, 4 or 5, but at the same time, it's not resonating with me and I'm feeling very jittery. I don't feel good. I will turn around and actually leave and be like, you know, I gotta go. See you later. Catch you on the flip side, whatever it is. And I will leave that conversation because I know that conversation, whatever it is not healthy for me.
When Kendra said it at the very beginning too, I mean, you know, you have to be able to put yourself first sometimes. You know, you've got to take care of yourself. And that's kind of something I've been trying to learn to do. I feel like I was brought up in a world of service. You know, you serve others, you take care of others, you know, put others before you put yourself. And in a lot of ways, I still believe that, unfortunately. I mean, but I have been trying to retrain my way of thinking as to, like, I can help people better if I'm feeling good myself. If I've taken care of myself first, then I'll have the energy and the bandwidth to deal with everybody else's issues, or somebody else's, somebody else's issues. But I can't help anybody if I can't even help myself. Right. So, and people can call it they might say it's selfish or rude or whatever, but you've got to take time and put and fix yourself. So,
it's like the airplane, right? Airplane. What do? You put the mask on yourself first.
Yeah. It's all a part of the journey. Like, we often label people who are of service and live their life from a place of being of service to others, and we're programmed that way. We look at them as good people, and then we look at the people who are takers, and they take and they take and they take, and we look at them as bad people. But both are not good. Both are of no benefit. The only way to benefit is if there's a balance of give and take, give and take. Mm-hmm. I was a person who was just of service. I'm a karma yogini. I took a vow to be of service, but I misunderstood what being of service is. Being of service doesn't mean you don't have any boundaries. So what I would do is I would allow my cup to fill up a little bit, and then I'd give it away. And I'd allow it to fill up a little bit, and I'd give it away. So I was always on empty. And then what am I giving? The dregs? The dregs is what I'm giving. What I learned after falling into martyrdom and recovering from that and having more embodied balance and boundaries in my service is that I have to let my cup fill all the way up to the point where it's overflowing. And only when it's overflowing am I able to serve and give, because everybody's welcome to the overflow. Take it all. Because but I have to remain full and continue to overflow in order to serve. You can't just keep emptying. That is just as bad as only taking.
Absolutely. Well, Kendra, thank you so much for being with us today. We truly appreciate it. We hope to have you on again in the near future. And thank you so much. And thanks to everybody who's watching the show. We truly appreciate you being here. Thank you again. Please make sure that you click subscribe. Please make sure that you click like, because that really helps us with the algorithm. And take care, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great day.